Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, April 20th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Guilty on all charges. Cries of justice across America. Crowds are gathering, cheers and prayers being said from Minneapolis to cities nationwide. As former officer Derek Chauvin had handcuffs placed on him behind his back, led away for the death of George Floyd in a case that has captured the nation for nearly a year. And we have live coverage on what's taking place right here at home. We begin with Camila Bernal on the verdict and reaction from Minneapolis.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
After close to 10 hours of deliberations over just 2 days.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty.
The verdict is in.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty.
The jury finding former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin guilty on all 3 counts.
I would not call today's verdict justice, however, because justice implies true restoration. But it is accountability.
George Floyd's brother stood inside the courtroom as the jury's verdict was read, while outside, protesters celebrating the victory. His girlfriend sharing her grief and her sense of relief.
It'll mean change. It's a first step in a long road to recovery.
Chauvin's bail was revoked, and he was led out of the courthouse in handcuffs. In Minneapolis, I'm Camila Bernal.
And like Minneapolis and other cities, law enforcement agencies in our county are at the ready for any possible negative reaction to the verdict, but so far, just peaceful, positive rallies. And KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live downtown with an up-to-the-moment update on what's taking place there right now. Matt?
Yeah, Maya, reaction is pouring in for this guilty verdict. And we know, at least here in the downtown area, there are a couple of demonstrations planned for later on in the evening. And while it is a little bit quiet now, I want to show you this area where we are here. This is near 9th and B, where organizers are going to be holding a Black Lives Matters march as the trolley goes by there. There's another demonstration set for 7 p.m. at Waterfront Park. That rally's organizing signs saying the fight is not over yet, even with former police officer Derek Chauvin's guilty convictions in the murder of George Floyd. Now, we know that some of those groups coming out here tonight were also here for some of those racial justice protests over the summer after Floyd's death. While mainly peaceful, there were some vandalism to businesses, like broken windows, and we talked to one business owner ahead of the verdict who says he's not sure what to expect tonight.
I'm not sure if it's going to be as bad as it was the previous time, but I do see that a lot of businesses are preparing and they are boarding up again.
Yeah, that business owner, not the only one. Earlier today, we saw some others boarding up their windows in the downtown area here. And in a statement, San Diego County Sheriff Bill Gore says he recognizes, respects, and will protect the right for people to peacefully assemble and their right to freedom of speech and expression. He's asking those who are coming out here tonight to do so peacefully and with respect to private property. Also asking those planning to participate in demonstrations to leave the area if they are asked to do so by law enforcement. As we come back out here live, there are some businesses still out here, boarding up some of their windows in anticipation of what might be coming. This is Hotel Churchill here near downtown. Now, we know that there's also a rally happening up in Oceanside this evening, but here, at least here in this area of downtown, still all quiet for now, Maya.
Thanks for that report, Matt. And today's verdict has spurred reaction nationwide, including here at home. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria released a statement saying, quote, "The jury has rightly called this case what it was, murder. Derek Chauvin's actions were an abuse of power and a disservice to the men and women who nobly protect and serve our communities, and now he will be held accountable. Beatrice Palmer, the co-chair of the Racial Justice Committee of Alliance for Regional Solutions, says she's thankful for the outcome in this case, but that it won't be the last.
Those aren't my kids, and George Floyd is not my blood. But every Black mother that sees George Floyd sees their son, or every sister, their brother. And we live in a time where there's so much racial unrest, you know. We don't have the privilege of celebrating an outcome like this. You know, it's like catch your breath, but then use this to create change.
And Governor Gavin Newsom also issued a statement saying, in part, quote, "No conviction can repair the harm done to George Floyd and his family, but today's verdict provides some accountability as we work to root out the racial injustice that haunts our society. We must continue the work of fighting systemic racism and excessive use of force." And this weeks-long trial has brought up a lot of emotions and anxiety for many people. Coming up, mental health experts have some advice. People who live in an East County neighborhood don't want a convicted sex offender for a new neighbor. This is their latest demonstration against the proposed move. This morning in downtown San Diego, a judge reviewed the case of Douglas Badger. He's 78 years old and he's scheduled for supervised release by the state. But those opposed say it shouldn't be in a busy Mount Helix neighborhood.
Across the street from 2 licensed daycare centers, next door neighbors have children, and it's within a mile of 5 elementary schools.
A decision on Badger's placement is not expected today. He is classified as a sexually violent predator, which indicates a high likelihood to re-offend. More fallout for the troubled Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine. We're now learning the FDA has ordered the vaccine maker to suspend production after an issue at a Baltimore facility. This comes after the CDC paused the rollout as it looks into reports of severe reactions to the vaccine. Steve Nannis has a closer look.
Another setback for Johnson & Johnson. Emergent Biosolutions has paused any new manufacturing of the J&J coronavirus vaccine at this Baltimore plant at the request of the FDA, but the company did not say why. The move comes as the administering of Johnson & Johnson shots remains on hold in the U.S. The CDC and the FDA making the decision due to the potential for rare but life-threatening blood clots.
These have been a handful of cases, not an overwhelming number of cases.
Federal health officials revealing they originally considered simply issuing a warning about this, but settled on pausing the rollout. Now the CDC director says they're investigating before deciding how to proceed.
We are working through and adjudicating them and verifying whether they do, in fact, reflect a true case. And that will be the work of the CDC this week, as well as the FDA.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, predicts Johnson & Johnson's vaccine will come back on the market with restrictions or warnings by Friday.
I don't want to get ahead of the CDC and the FDA and the advisory committee, but I would imagine that what we will see is that it would come back, and it would come back in some sort of either warning or restriction.
In an email statement, Emergent Biosolutions said the inspection is ongoing and it's working with the FDA and Johnson & Johnson to strengthen the supply chain. In Washington, Steve Nannis, KPBS News.
And this is the second major issue at the Baltimore plant involving the shot. Just last month, Johnson & Johnson said it found a quality problem at the plant. Production was paused after a mix-up ruined 15 million doses. After a year of successfully controlling the spread of COVID-19 on campus, UC San Diego officials are eager to return to normal in the fall. But that means making sure students and staff are fully vaccinated. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong spoke with university officials about whether they think a vaccine should be mandatory for those returning to campus.
UC San Diego has been a success story in controlling the spread of COVID-19 on campus. Thanks to mandatory testing and safety protocols, about 8,700 students are living in university housing, and the positivity rate among students is a fraction of the county-wide rate. UC San Diego Chancellor Pradeep Khosla said it was all due to the collaborations between faculty scientists and administrators, but above all, he credits the students.
Our students behaved exemplarily well. I mean, it was unbelievable. We were expecting it, and they beat our expectations and then some. So to me, they were the reason we were so successful.
As of now, it is unclear whether the University of California Board of Regents will require students and staff at all UC campuses to be vaccinated before returning in the fall. Khosla said the Regents should require vaccinations except for people who aren't able to for medical reasons or strongly held religious beliefs.
Because at the end of the day, our job is not just to be individually independent, we also need to be part of a societal structure. So we, in addition to safeguarding ourselves, we also have to be responsible for people around us. So it's a balance that we have to think through, right?
And the experts on his team agree. Robert Schooley is a professor of medicine at UC San Diego who oversaw the COVID-19 task force at the university. He said the COVID-19 vaccine should be added to the list of immunization requirements for students living on UC campuses.
That's why we have, for example, measles vaccines required, chickenpox vaccines. We look at bacterial meningitis vaccines, and the COVID vaccines are actually better than the ones we already have, and the disease is more severe. So it really makes medical sense for these kinds of settings to have vaccine be a part of one of the requirements to be here.
Among local colleges, the University of San Diego has announced it will require all students to be vaccinated before returning to campus. A San Diego State University spokeswoman said the California State University system has not yet made a decision on vaccination requirements. Point Loma Nazarene University will not be requiring students to be vaccinated. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
And just as a reminder, everyone aged 16 and older is now eligible. We have more information about how and where to get your shot at kpbs.org. Just go to our homepage and then click on the Vaccines tab. The spending plan from San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria is now in the City Council's hands. Gloria is outlining how he will allocate a budget of more than $4.5 billion. Among the notable elements are an investment in the city's climate equity fund and less spending on police overtime. Federal COVID-19 relief money will help San Diego avoid any serious cuts to services. The next step in this process is a public comment period that begins on May 5th. The pandemic widened the digital divide even further as the way we live, study, and connect increasingly went online. KPBS's Christina Kim tells us how San Diego is taking a step to close that gap.
Good morning, everyone.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria laid out a plan to expand free internet access to the more than 53,000 San Diegans living without reliable broadband.
For us to be a truly great city, we must address digital equity head on and make sure that every San Diegan has access to the opportunities of our digital age. And that's why we're announcing today that the City of San Diego is offering free Wi-Fi at over 300 new locations as a part of our new SD Access for All program.
Mayor Gloria's announcement, which builds upon a program started last year under then Mayor Kevin Faulconer, also includes new laptops and 900 mobile hotspots that people will be able to check out from select libraries. Like this one in San Isidro. It received its first hotspots a little over 3 weeks ago and has been operating an outdoor computer lab since October. San Isidro's branch manager, Elaine Sinswan, says the internet access has been crucial to her predominantly Latino and bilingual patrons who use the computers to study and apply for jobs.
I get a lot of happy stories of people who are able to finish their work, which can be huge, especially when you have limited access and you have to go to maybe 2 or 3 different places just to finish the application and then maybe come back inside to print. So what's easy for us who are very well connected and have a printer and Wi-Fi, it can take another person, a few days just to finish what they need due to time limits and constraints.
The newly announced program comes on the heels of Mayor Gloria's proposed budget cuts to San Diego libraries, which will cut down hours but be offset by new digital resources. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
People often look to their faith leaders for guidance on big decisions, who to marry, how many kids to have, whether to change jobs. And these days, parishioners are asking another big question. Should I get a COVID-19 vaccination? KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser tells us the answer local faith leaders give could impact when we reach herd immunity and the severity of future outbreaks.
The future of humanity and freedom lies in the hands of the believing Christians.
In February, a large crowd gathered at the Awakened Church in San Marcos to hear from Dr. Simone Gold, a well-known anti-vaccine doctor. She spoke with the church's founders and made several claims regarding the safety of the vaccines that have been debunked by health authorities and mainstream scientists. Awaken has 5 locations in San Diego. It is the same church that's been the source of significant outbreaks and that county officials have called out for a flagrant disregard of COVID-19 health orders. Awaken's anti-vaccine stance could have a broader impact on our region, says UC San Diego epidemiologist Rebecca Fielding Miller.
Folks who are part of a community that's not interested in vaccinating are also folks who, go grocery shopping and go out to eat and whose kids go to school.
But Fielding Miller says faith-based communities can also be key drivers in the push to reach herd immunity.
People do mix randomly-ish, but not really, right? And if everybody who you work with or everybody who you go to church with, everybody who you socialize with has gotten vaccinated or is talking about getting vaccinated, then it is the social norm. It is, this is what we do.
We're doing everything we can to encourage people to obtain the vaccination as soon as it's available to them, and to get it done so we can all resume, a much more normal life.
Kevin Eckery is a spokesperson for the Catholic Diocese of San Diego. The Catholic Church and many other local faith-based organizations are on the other end of the spectrum from Awaken. They are actively encouraging followers to get vaccinated. Some local churches are taking vaccine advocacy a step further by actually helping put shots into parishioners' arms. Last month, the Bayview Baptist Church in Encanto held a clinic where 500 people got vaccines. Pastor Keith Brown says the event helped some who were skeptical of the vaccines make the decision, including him.
And I was skeptic as well when they first had him come out saying that it came out too fast. I was skeptical, but what made me change my mind is once I heard the statistics.
Nationwide, survey data show that white evangelical Protestants are less likely to get vaccinated than other racial and religious groups, while other evangelical megachurches in San Diego don't appear to be taking the same anti-vaccine stance as Awaken. They are not advocating for vaccines either. Rock Church's assistant pastor, Mickey Stonier, says his church won't be making any recommendations.
We're not medical doctors. We're doctors for the heart. We encourage people to adhere to all the safety, health, eat, exercise, keep yourself safe.
When asked why Rock Church isn't promoting the vaccines the way other churches and religious organizations are, Stonier says they don't stand in judgment of what other churches are doing. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
California is once again facing extreme drought after a second year of low rainfall. The Federal Drought Monitor says San Diego's status is abnormally dry, while many other parts of the state are in some level of drought. UC San Diego climate scientist Daniel Chauvin says the combination of Santa Ana winds, very dry weather, and a diminished wet season could be disastrous.
All of that spells a larger concern with wildfire in the climate future for California.
Chauvin says climate models indicate conditions will become more extreme. At least one water district in Northern California is now considering mandatory water restrictions for the first time in years.
We'll have a deep marine layer here in the next couple of days. A little damp Wednesday and Thursday morning, but hang in there. Friday and Saturday, drier and some warming. Strong gusty winds in the mountains and deserts. Wind advisories are being issued here. They continue right through Wednesday evening. For tonight, patchy, very light rain or drizzle near the coast. Temperature is cooled down to 46 in Ramona and 59 in San Diego. Here's a look at the future radar. You can see that deep marine layer, and the green indicates some spotty light rain or some drizzle. So the roads may be a little bit wet for the morning commute. There's your Wednesday's weather. Troughs moving in, keeping that onshore flow with us. Plenty of clouds around and maybe a shower or two. Temperature is cool. 63 San Diego. Ramona's at 57. Borrego Springs 74. Here's the future radar. Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Still see some spotty areas of green. Could see a little touch of some very light rain or some drizzle. Thursday, the trough starts to relax its grip, but we'll still have plenty of clouds around. And the temperatures will finally start to rise Friday into Saturday as the little ridge of high pressure builds in. As we take you to the inland areas, you can see temperatures rising Friday into Saturday. It gets brighter too. And as we head our way to the mountains, strong gusty winds and cool, and then more pleasant weather Friday into Saturday. And in the deserts, temperatures will be on the rise, so by Friday and Saturday, temperatures are back into the 90s with some sunshine. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
After a years-long battle with illegal dispensaries, the first legal storefront is now selling cannabis in the South Bay.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Yay!
Grasshopper Dispensary was welcomed by Chula Vista city officials this morning. It's located in an industrial area and is the first of 8 cannabis storefronts coming to the city. In recent years, police in the area have had a tough time closing down illegal operations. This new storefront will also bring in tax revenue to the city. The owner says it took more than 2 years to get to this point.
I grew up in Chula Vista, born and raised in Chula Vista, raising my kids out here, my family. So Chula Vista business right here, something everybody could be proud of.
All dispensaries opening in Chula Vista will be for recreational consumption, meaning customers do not need a medical card. Previously, there were just delivery services permitted in the city.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, guilty. A Minneapolis jury convicts Derek Chauvin on all counts for the murder of George Floyd. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
For many, the Derek Chauvin murder trial has brought forth a lot of emotion, even anxiety. Mandy Gaither reports on how to manage those feelings.
You should check on him. He's not. No!
From eyewitness videos to emotional testimony.
Oh my God.
Those watching the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin may have spent weeks on edge.
No matter what the outcome is, many will feel that it's not enough to deal with the type of unrest that we're dealing with in the nation right now.
Ken Yeager, director of the Stress, Trauma, and Resilience program at Ohio State University College of Medicine, says there's a potential for depression, frustration, anger, and/or fear at the thought of what could happen after a verdict outside the courthouse and beyond.
First, you kind of have to stand still and feel and understand the hurt. And then I would say the second best thing to start doing is to process your emotions, your thoughts, your whatever it is, frustrations with close family members and friends that you trust.
If negative feelings surrounding the trial are consuming you, Yeager says become involved.
Find something that you're passionate about and volunteer your hours to that, because doing so gives a sense of control and purpose. And it also gives a very real and important concept of contributing.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And here's another look at today's top story. After nearly a year of protests, 3 weeks of testimony, and about 10 hours of deliberation, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murder and manslaughter. President Joe Biden praised the conviction, saying it can be a giant step forward in fighting systemic racism. Chauvin will be sentenced in 8 weeks. Experts say he's likely looking at 40 years in prison on the second-degree murder charge. Today, people return to the streets in Minneapolis and across the country to celebrate the verdict. And KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live downtown where a march is planned. Matt.
Yeah, Maya, right now it is still pretty calm out here, but we are expecting a couple of marches to be happening here in the downtown area. And as we look across the nation, we've been seeing a lot of protests that have been peaceful. And here in San Diego, law enforcement, they are hoping for the same, but they are preparing basically for anything that's going to be happening tonight, as we aren't seeing a ton of people out here yet after the guilty verdicts in the killing of George Floyd. Now, we are seeing some businesses boarding up in case of any rowdy crowds, which in the past we have seen start to happen later in the night. But in this area of 8th and B, there will be a Black Lives Matters march. And then 7 p.m. at Waterfront Park, there's another group organizing with saying their message, the fight is not over yet, even though Derek Chauvin's guilty convictions, 3 across the board. And, these rallies, there's also another one that's happening up in Oceanside. That one not happening until later this evening, but we are seeing a lot of reaction coming out here. We did mention that in this part of downtown near 9th and B, that rally just getting started here momentarily. We're waiting for people to come out. And then there's another one down at Waterfront Park and another one up in Oceanside. Maya, we'll send it back to you.
And we are following all of the latest developments on our website. You can go to kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.